Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about writing nonfiction. So specifically, we're going to talk about author's purpose, the audience, as well as the voice an author may take in a piece of writing. We'll also explore different pre-writing strategies that you might choose to take as we begin writing essays for this class. So first, let's talk about author's purpose, or reasons why authors write. There's actually three main reasons why an author might choose to write. And that could be to inform, to persuade, or to entertain. So for instance, if an author is writing to inform, that author is trying to teach their audience about something. If an author is writing to persuade, the author might be trying to convince the audience to do or believe something. And lastly, if the author is writing to entertain, the author might be trying to amuse or charm the audience. We also need to consider the author's audience, or to whom the author is writing. So the author might choose to have a specific audience. That might mean that they're writing specifically for a certain organization, a specific age range, or maybe even a specific type of professional. Or an author might just have a general audience, which means that the author is writing to anyone who will read the work. Now, purpose and audience will highly impact the writing. Depending on who the author is writing to and why they are writing, the diction, tone, and syntax will change. So for instance, when we talk about diction, we're simply talking about word choice. So the words an author uses might change depending on who they're talking to. So for instance, if I needed to send a text message to a friend, I'm probably going to use different words than if I had to send a text message to my boss. Words matter depending on who you're talking to. Also, the tone or attitude an author takes might also change depending on the specific purpose and the audience. And lastly, the types of sentences an author uses might also change depending on the audience and the purpose. So again, determining who you're writing to and why you're writing will highly impact how you write. Let's talk more specifically about diction or word choice. When we begin to write essays, just know that your word choice will matter. Okay? We look at informal words or we have formal language. Depending on who you're writing to and why you're writing, you might include things like slang or recently coined words or phrases that are used in informal situations. Examples would be words like baller, swag, lit, or others. You might also choose to include colloquial expressions or regional words or phrases that are used in informal situations. Examples would be using soda versus pop, or phrases like, "You're driving me crazy." You could choose to include jargon or words or expressions that are specific to a trade, profession, or pursuit. An example would be like, in teaching, we talk about best practices or learning goals and scales or scaffolding. Or you could choose to use a specific dialect, which is a non-standard subgroup of language with its own vocabulary and grammar. This often reveals a person's social or economic status. So example, do you call something a pail or a bucket? So again, depending on who you're writing to and why you're writing, it will impact the words you choose to use. This slide just shows us a little bit more about tone. So as a reminder, tone is simply the author's attitude towards a subject or an audience. And there are many different tone words that you can choose from. So again, as we begin to write essays in this class, it will be important for you to determine why you're writing so you can determine which tone is most appropriate for that purpose. I also want to further explain syntax. So syntax is just a really fancy way of saying the way that words are ordered into phrases and sentences. And there are actually 4 different types of sentence structures that you can write in your paragraphs. You can include simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences, or compound complex sentences. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you more information about these 4 types of sentences. So for instance, a simple sentence is just your basic clause. And a basic clause is simply a subject-verb structure. An example, the girl ran. We have a subject and we have a verb. Or you could write in compound sentences, which is simply two independent clauses that are joined by a conjunction. An example, the girl ran a marathon and her cousin did too. Or you could choose to write in complex sentences, and complex sentences contain at least one independent clause and one dependent clause. An example, although the girls were exhausted after running a marathon, they decided to go to the park. And lastly, you can include a combination of our sentences, and you can write in compound complex sentences. Compound complex sentences simply contains multiple clauses or independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. An example, although the girl had never ran a marathon, she was very glad she did it, and she will probably run another marathon. So again, as we write our paragraphs and our essays in this class, it will be important to give your paragraphs and essays variety by choosing different types of sentences. Now, once you determine what your purpose is, who you're writing for, and the voice you'd like to use, you can begin the writing process. In this class, the writing process will be like this. We will pre-write, so we'll plan and brainstorm our topics. We will draft rough drafts. We will revise our rough drafts. We'll edit our final drafts, and then we'll consider publishing our work or sharing our work with other people. As we talk about planning our first essay for this class, I want to remind you that you need to first engage in pre-writing strategies. One of the most important pre-writing strategies that we'll use in this class is simply examining the prompt. And so as we write essays for this class, I will give you some sort of topic that I want you to write about. So again, a prompt is simply a writing assignment that requires students to write about a specific topic or in a certain way. So when I give you prompts, there are a few steps that I want you to follow. First, I want you to read the prompt at least twice. That way you have an understanding of what you're being asked to do. Then I want you to circle any verbs and underline the 5 W's, the who's, the what's, the when's, the where's, the why's. That way you'll be sure to include everything that you need to in your essay. And lastly, as a reminder, if it's a 2-part prompt, you need to be sure to satisfy both parts. As an example, on this next slide, I have given a potential prompt. Now, this is not a prompt that you actually have to write an essay for. I just wanted us to practice examining the prompt together. So, the directions say, we need to read the prompt twice. Then we'll circle any verbs and/or the 5 W's. So our prompt says, think of your favorite place to play when you were younger. Describe this place and explain why it was your favorite. Include details so that your reader will understand your choice. Again, if I follow my steps, I need to read this prompt twice so I completely understand what's being asked of me. It says, think of your favorite place to play when you were younger. Describe this place and explain why it was your favorite. Include details so that your reader will understand your choice. Now that I've read the prompt twice, I need to circle my verbs and my 5 W's so that I can really let myself know exactly what it is I need to write about. So as you can see, I have done that for you now. And this is just something, again, that if you examine the prompt closely, you're more likely to include all of the requirements in your paper. Another pre-writing strategy is selecting your topic or prompt. In this class, I am most likely going to give you multiple prompts to choose from. That way you're more likely to get a prompt that you're actually interested in. As you look at the different prompts that I have outlined for you, there's a few things that I want you to consider. First, do you have enough background knowledge about that topic to write a complete essay on? If not, you probably should select a different prompt. Next, do you think that you'll have enough details to write an entire essay about it? Third, are you curious enough in the topic in order to learn more about it to write an effective paragraph? And finally, are you interested in the topic? If we don't have enough background knowledge, enough details, if we're not curious, or we're just not interested in a topic or prompt, we're probably not going to be very successful in writing our essay for it. So again, as I give you the different prompts to choose from, be sure to select a prompt that you know a lot about, that you'll have enough details for, that you're curious to learn more about, and that you're just plain interested in it. If you are interested in the topic that you've selected, you're more likely to be successful in writing your essay. And lastly, a part of the pre-writing strategy is to brainstorm. And so on this slide, I've given you 5 different brainstorming strategies that you can use as you work to select your topic. You can use a bullet list, you can use a spider web, an outline, a picture outline, or I'm sure there are many other brainstorming strategies that you can use as you prepare to pick your topic for our essay. If you have any questions about anything that I've talked to you about in this video, don't hesitate to reach out. Bye everyone.